The Shooting Range. In this episode, Pages of History, the American Skyray, Round Study, Maverick Missile Family, and Metal Beasts, Recon Master from Japan. Squadron vehicles were introduced into the game all the way back in 2019, and nowadays we have a total of 24 of them. We added another one only recently, so now's a great time to talk about it. Let's take a closer look at our new addition. Please welcome a Japanese-wheeled light tank, the CTWV RCV. The front of its hull houses an engine with 570 horsepower. It provides the 26-ton machine with a pretty modest thrust-to-weight ratio, so its acceleration isn't very impressive. Its top speed on firm ground, however, reaches no less than 100 kilometers an hour. Don't forget to use this advantage if you want to find good surprise positions early in a game. And if you happen to drive into trouble, you can always retreat, since the reverse speed is 36 kilometers an hour. Flanking is one of the most important tactics for this Japanese wheeler, since it's the best way to unlock the full potential of its armament. The vehicle comes with a 30mm Bushmaster autocannon that can fire finned discarding sabot rounds with a penetration rate reaching 116mm. This weapon is also used on other vehicles, and its main flaw is widely known. Its low rate of fire makes attacking tanks from the front inefficient. That's why we recommend flanking or attacking from the rear every time you can. The wheeler's own armor can be described as, well, untrustworthy. Only the upper front plate can stop a shot from an IFV autocannon, and even then it needs a good enough angle. In all other cases, the enemy round is going right inside, and the damage it makes only depends on what modules it hits. The CTWV can often survive the first hit, but in most cases it loses mobility or firepower. Auxiliary devices are much more inspiring though. This vehicle has a laser rangefinder, a laser warning system, thermals, a recon drone, and smoke launchers. And of course, there's one little thing in the machine's rear that we simply can't miss: a telescopic mast that you can use to scout the environment while staying in cover. Although, if you're feeling too bored to use it for its main mission, you can also repurpose it as an enemy teaser. The Skyray is an American interceptor whose service life never saw combat. It joined the Navy Air Force a few years after the Korean War and retired shortly before the Vietnam War. However, it managed to set a new world record in speed and make a few more achievements during its life. For instance, it's the first ever supersonic carrier-based aircraft, the last aircraft made by Douglas before it merged with McDonnell, a testing stand for anti-satellite weapons, and overall a pretty reliable combat vehicle. The Skyray began its path in the late 1940s in the Douglas Company, where engineers were experimenting with a delta wing for future combat aircraft. Back then, engine power advanced in leaps and bounds, but the military also updated its requirements for fighters very often. According to calculations, a delta wing was supposed to provide a major advantage at supersonic speeds. Some prototypes were even designed to the shape of a flying wing, like the German Horten 229. But only the most balanced variants actually made it to production. The research Douglas was conducting accidentally coincided with the new needs of the Department of Defense. The officials were looking for a new aircraft capable of delivering quick strikes to enemy heavy bombers. The United States received access to many German technologies after World War II, and Alexander Lippisch, the designer of the famous Comet, shared his findings and even had personal consultations with American engineers. And so the XF-4D interceptor project was born, later named the Skyray, due to the resemblance of its shape. The prototype was ready in the early 1950s. The engineers and military officials even reached agreement on all the stumbling blocks, but mass production was still not going to happen for a while. The most powerful engine at the moment was the J-40 made by Westinghouse, but the future aircraft required still more thrust. The development of a new power plant took longer than expected, so the prototype F-4Ds received the J-57 engines from Pratt & Whitney. In turn, this decision forced the engineers to redesign the tail section of the aircraft, pushing its mass production even further. That's why the Skyray ended up ready for introduction only in 1956, when its flight performance wasn't that impressive anymore. By that time, the world had already seen the F-100 Super Sabre, the Soviet MiG-19, and some other aircraft with capabilities similar to the Skyray. That's why the F-4D didn't last even 10 years in service. Despite all the unfortunate delays and misfortunes, it left a bright mark in the history of aviation. For example, it set a new world record in speed, 1,211 kilometers an hour. On top of that, it was the first carrier-based aircraft with such an achievement. The fighter was reliable, but pretty hard to control. Young pilots used it to train maneuvering, later switching to more advanced and less demanding aircraft, like the Crusader fighter. Still, Douglas wasn't planning to abandon the project. The engineers were ready to present prototypes of a new, even faster fighter called the Skylancer. But fate decided to throw a sucker punch. The military opted for an aircraft made by their direct competitor, the Vought Company. Douglas was suffering major losses and had to merge with McDonnell. And despite this unpleasant experience, it wasn't a fatal blow. They would go on to produce numerous famous combat aircraft in the years to come. The Maverick air-to-surface missile family is one of the most widespread types of munitions in top-rank battles. Today we'd like to compare all the modifications of the AGM-65 that are currently available in the game. Let's start with the base model A, and its Swedish copy, the RB-75. These missiles are equipped with fixed-zoom TV seekers and high-explosive warheads. Similarly to other Mavericks, the earliest version enjoys the fire-and-forget capability, which means you can turn away right after a launch. There's only one flaw: its target lock-on range is limited. For tanks, this limit is around 3 kilometers. If you try to launch the missile from further away, it will lock onto a fixed spot on the ground instead. The AGM-65B and its Swiss version, the Flugzeuglenkwaffen Luftboden 82, are also equipped with high-explosive warheads and TV seekers, but their range limit is 6 kilometers. Another improvement is better zoom for the optics. On the one hand, this change makes long-range attacks more comfortable because you can see your targets better. But at close range, this zoom is more of a hindrance. So we recommend you recon the lock-on area using third-person view beforehand. There's another version similar to the B, the Swedish RB-75T. The difference is in the warhead. Instead of a high explosive, it's the SAP-HE type. In practice, it means that it delivers more reliable hits thanks to overpressure damage. In addition to that, all Mavericks starting with this version are equipped with low-smoke motors that make launchers less visible. The AGM-65D is an even bigger upgrade. It comes with the same heat warhead, but instead of a TV seeker, it has an infrared homing device. Thanks to that, the D modification can even be used at night. Besides, an infrared seeker makes it easier to spot enemies at longer ranges. The optics were also upgraded. The angle of view is now wider, and you can also change zoom level to some extent. The vehicle lock-on range is better as well, reaching up to 10 kilometers for tanks. The G modification combines infrared homing and the powerful SAP-HE warhead. However, that upgrade comes with a price of extra mass. It's almost 80 kilograms heavier than the Heat version, so you can't put it onto the special triple hardpoints. That's why the AGM-65D is preferable on some aircraft. One of the rarest and most unusual missiles is the AGM-65H. It combines a heat warhead, like on the D model, a TV seeker with a view angle, like on the early A version, and the lock-on range of 6 kilometers, like on Modification B. And finally, here are the newest Mavericks in the game. Models L, E, and E2. All of them are equipped with laser-guided homing devices. This allows you to switch targets after the launch and direct the missiles at any part of the tank. The downside is that you can't fly to safety until the munition hits the target. What munitions would you like to see next? Tell us in the comments while we answer your questions. The first question was sent by a player called Uranium98. Secondary inlets of the MiG-29 series often open mid-air. What's the role of secondary inlets in mid-air? Because there are no debris in mid-air? Hello, Uranium. Those air inlets on the MiG-29 can indeed open mid-flight. It happens at lower speeds and high angles of attack to provide the engine with extra air. By the way, they're sometimes called gills. WT Kitten asks, what's the fastest plane in the game at the moment? Hi, Kitten. We got a new record recently. It's the new American F-111F. Its maximum speed near the ground is a whopping 1,600 kilometers an hour. Another question comes from Parso. Can these satellite bombs be used in order to destroy bases in air, realistic, and simulator battles? I think it would possibly make it easier to drop in the air, Sim, right? Hey, Parso. Yes, satellite bombs are perfect for hitting stationary objects, so feel free to drop them onto bases in air battles. Zis12 Milk Truck writes, what's the difference between PZGR and PZGR-39 on the Tiger tank? Hi, Zis. The difference between these two shells is the penetration rate and the amount of explosive filler. The PZGR-39 is better against armor, while the PZGR deals more damage. We recommend you go for the latter if you're playing the Tigers. It has enough penetration for almost any target, and overpressure helps you deal critical damage with each hit. And the last comment for today was written by Skylar. What are the different bomb types best used for? What type of bomb is the best against ground vehicles? Hi! The new type of bomb seems to have caused a lot of interest and questions. Why don't we make a separate section about all the types, talk about their pros and cons, and maybe even add some tips and tricks? See it soon on The Shooting Range. That's it for today. You've been watching The Shooting Range by Gaijin Entertainment, and the next episode will premiere the following Sunday at 4 p.m. GMT or noon Eastern Time. Subscribe and click the bell if you don't want to miss our next videos. Don't forget that milk trucks are best observed from afar. Leave a like, share your thoughts and comments, and see you next week.